Agribusiness brought to you by Sure Crop, quality liquid crop nutrition delivered right to your farm.
Good morning and welcome back to the show. We're at the 100th, Nancy, the 100th edition of the KLA conference here in Wichita.
Older than you and me put together.
It probably is.
I hope so.
Well, yeah, me too. Thanks for joining us this morning. No matter how much beef we produce in the U.S., we have to have a demand for it.
Absolutely.
Not only globally, but more importantly here in the U.S. And part of what you do is kind of look at trends and what's going on in the industry and what's going on with consumers nowadays.
Well, gosh, there's so much going on in the broad sense, but I think a couple things as it relates specifically to beef. As you may be aware, I track the restaurant industry in particular. The single biggest trend in the restaurant business at the moment is the hamburger. It's all about better burgers.
Well, you know, which is funny because you look at what happened 6 months ago when people call the pink slime or whatever it might be. You look at that and you go, gosh, how could that be? But it's true. I mean, it's a great product.
Well, and here's what's interesting from a business point of view, which is really the way that I track it. You know, the hamburger business is really kind of the foundation of the modern restaurant business. In other words, if you take a look at big names like McDonald's, Wendy's, Burger King, my gosh, they're established. They control billions of dollars worth of trade. How could it be that in 2012, with all of those burger options available to us, the #1 biggest breakout in terms of sales growth in restaurants, it's better burgers. And yet it's true. And the reason for that is because the better burger providers are keying into some changing consumer demands, specifically with regard to what they believe to be fresher product, freshly prepared especially.
Is that an older consumer or a younger consumer who's demanding a kind of a higher quality type burger?
Well, you know, it's interesting. It's really very much across the board, particularly with regard to burgers, because everybody loves burgers. They have what we call good demographics. There's almost no segment of the population that does not like burgers. But in terms of the better burgers themselves, baby boomers and older consumers like them. They see that it's a better quality product. The younger consumers, Generation Y, like them as well because they're not the big corporations. Some of them are almost kind of like outlaws.
It's like microbrewery beer.
Exactly. It's exactly the same trend, and it's very much of this moment.
Right. Well, you look at that, and any Food Network that you watch, Food Network or Cooking Channel or whatever it might be, you know, when they talk about hamburgers, there's $300 hamburgers, there's $7 hamburgers, $25 hamburgers. I mean, restaurants are really starting to come into their own about providing that quality product that consumers are willing to pay for. But there's also, Nancy, there's a price point in there, isn't there? That you think that consumers will go, ground beef, not going to pay that for it.
Well, you know, you might be interested to hear how very much elastic that price point is in terms of where consumers are willing to open up their pocketbooks. It's a couple of things, Greg, that go into the mixer. First of all, the beef itself. More and more burger providers are making claims. It's natural. They may be using the name of the producer to make it sort of artisanal. It's like the craft beer thing. So that's important. But the burger itself is part of a bigger package. So think now about these wonderful condiments. It's not just yellow mustard, but now it's stone ground mustard with ale in it, right?
Homemade ketchup or whatever.
You got it. And the bun, it's maybe if they're not making it in the store, it's coming from some local bakery. So you put a package together and the value of that product increases really, I think, exponentially.
Well, we need to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to finish our conversation with Nancy.
Super.
You're watching Ag AM in Kansas, and we'll see you in just a minute.
Agribusiness brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Thanks for staying with us, Nancy. Thank you for staying with us.
My pleasure.
We are at the 100th anniversary of the KLA conference in Wichita, and we're talking burgers, which is, I mean, as you can tell by my girlish figure, I'm pretty good at eating burgers. So
I like them myself.
Exactly. We're talking about high-end burgers. You look at, and I brought up Food Network and some of the other food channels, but not only that, you look at Smash Burger, you know, kind of new into the scene, got in, and they're providing other services just besides hamburgers, Rosemary's French fries, and, green beans and some other stuff. Of course, serve beer and wine also.
Yes.
Is that important for restaurants to kind of open their menu a little bit to draw people in?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting that you bring that up, because not along with burgers, Better Burgers is a high growth segment. The other real high growth segment is what we call bakery cafe. Do you know Panera Bread, for example? One of the things they do very well there is they provide an environment that invites people to stay and relax. It's one of the key ways that they're different from a typical fast food operator. So yes, the Better Burger guys do a nice job of putting little extras. It may be extra food items that are interesting out of the ordinary. It may be the physical environment that's a little bit more welcoming and relaxing.
Free Wi-Fi.
You got it. And you invite the customer to come in and stay. And the longer they stay, first, particularly in the hamburger environment, they'll spend a little bit more money. They get those aromas and they can't resist going back to the counter. But also, the more welcome they are, the more likely they are to think of you the next time they want to go out. So that's key.
Well, and you look at it, and things have changed, like you said, in the last few years, but you look at the industry back in the early 90s, you had Fuddruckers and some of those other places who kind of struggled to stay in business, and they were kind of a gourmet business. So consumers' tastes have come full circle again, I guess, is basically what I'm hearing.
That's exactly right. I think the consumers have actually kind of caught up to them. I think you're exactly right.
Pub burgers also kind of fit into the same category, sports bars and places like that. And you see a lot of people putting hamburgers on menus that you never would have thought of, that they would have put a hamburger on their menu, some high-end steakhouses.
Well, you know, what I find kind of fascinating about that, there's hardly, I believe, a city in America today where you will not go in and find a Better Burger operation being run by a local chef. Fine dining is a very, very tough business these days. And it's complicated to run, it's expensive to run, and the clientele has really dried up. If you are a smart young chef, you take a look at the opportunity for a burger, and it's got your name all over it. So these
a little foie gras.
Sure, that's it. And you have a bar. And by the way, your bartender isn't a bartender now; he's a bar chef. And you've got all these wonderful, expensive, exciting drinks, and you have a real business going, and you get some buzz. But Greg, what we're talking about now is buzz being built around the basic burger. It's so darned exciting.
And last thing, we've got about 40 seconds left here. Beef snacks. And I heard you kind of talking off to the side. And beef snacks. Beef jerky is another one of those industries that all of a sudden exploded. So again, we've got just a few seconds here. That industry, where do you see that going?
It's going to continue to grow along the lines. This is a great place to close. You brought it up earlier, craft, artisanal, local. That's where the jerky business is going. It's never going to have great mass appeal like the burger, but it's going to continue to grow strongly on the basis of a better product.
Yeah, you see a few people coming in and out of the industry. So Slim Jim had kind of dominated, and then you've got a few other people coming in.
Exactly.
So.
Yep, I think
Nancy,
it's right.
Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
It was very nice to meet you.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.